His sun had just dipped below the horizon of rustic Nashville, casting long amber shadows across Music Row, when the world learned that Dwight Yoakam, country music's razor-tongued troubadour and silver-haired showman, would at last put every whisper to rest. At 68 years old, he stood center stage at the Grand Ole Opry with that signature cowboy hat tipped just so, the lights framing his weathered features. A hush fell as he cleared his throat and spoke words fans had spent months speculating about. "I'm not hanging up my boots just yet," he said, voice gravelly but resolute. "But I do want you to know where I'm headed and why." For decades, Yoakam's career defied easy boundaries. He sashayed across genres, cutting new paths through honky-tonk, rockabilly, and alt-country, all the while outshining Nashville's polished elite with snarling Telecaster riffs and barbed lyrics. His breakthrough album Guitars, Cadillacs, etc., released when he was barely 29, shocked executives who hadn't believed a skinny kid from Pike County, Kentucky, could pack both grit and swagger into a single track. He sold platinum records on gut-bucket authenticity, hopped into Hollywood with turns in Sling Blade and Red Rock West, and built a cult following so fervent that even his stumbles felt like performance art. Yet rumors shadowed his every move. When he skipped award shows without explanation, fans murmured about health crises. When he vanished from social media for weeks on end, conspiracy theorists speculated on personal breakups or secret collaborations. An unverified post claimed he was battling liver disease. Another swore he had been negotiating a farewell tour so subterranean that fans would discover dates through cassette tape, clues hidden in record stores. Through it all, Dwight remained famously tight-lipped, issuing cryptic one-liners in interviews. "I've got a few miles left on this road," he'd say with a knowing smirk. But nothing clear. Those hazy messages only stoked the fire. Online forums buzzed with feverish threads. Has Dwight retired in 2022? Is he recording a gospel album in secret? Rumor: Dwight Yoakam is suing his record label. Confirmation: the rumor mill ran wild. Blogs published leaks of new song titles. TikTok creators chopped unseen clips from recent sessions at Sound Emporium Studios, theorizing that the blonde strands of hair drifting across the frame meant he was dying to disguise himself. Even respected music journalists traded hearsay as fact, each news cycle recycling the same unanswered questions. Then, like the snap of a bluegrass banjo, came Dwight's announcement, an unedited, 90-second acoustic video posted on his official YouTube channel. He sat alone on a stool in the corner of a vintage wooden cabin, flickering lamplight skimming calloused fingertips cradling a 1964 Fender Nashville Telecaster. He strummed a slow CGD progression, looked into the camera, and spoke plainly. "The rumors you've heard, they're half true, half tales. Yes, I'm slowing down, not because I'm tired, but because I'm refining my purpose. I'm making space for my next chapter." That single, unvarnished message would shatter months of conjecture. No dragging this reveal through the machinery of press agents. No sneaky leaks to win clickbait. Just Dwight, his guitar, and 4 sentences that rewrote every headline. Overnight, Dwight Yoakam confirms rumors trended globally. Radio stations replayed his solemn chuckle. Fans shared reaction videos tracing every subtle inflection. Music critics scrawled think pieces on legacy and aging in country music. Industry execs scrambled to lock in dates for his forthcoming One Last Rodeo tour. Only he clarified it wasn't his last, but rather the first act in a new play. Behind the scenes, insiders hinted at the full story: chronic wrist pain from decades of chicken picking, restless creativity yearning for film scores, a burning desire to mentor a younger wave of traditionalists. Yet even those whispers couldn't overshadow the power of that single video. In a digital world overstuffed with teasers, trailers, and trailers for trailers, Dwight's plain-spoken confession felt revolutionary. It harnessed nostalgia without wallowing in it, acknowledged mortality without indulging in it, and above all, hinted at reinvention rather than resignation. As the sun rose over Broadway the next morning, one thing became crystal clear: the rumors weren't just about retirement or health. They were about transformation. Dwight Yoakam, at 68, was turning a page, and he invited everyone along for the ride. The morning after Dwight Yoakam's unfiltered video dropped, The digital airwaves crackled with commentary. Country radio hosts played the clip in its entirety, no soundbite edits, allowing listeners to hear every crack in his voice. Major music publications that typically dissected platinum sales instead praised the sheer economy of his message, for sentences that carried more weight than 1,000 press releases. Spotify curated a Yoakam Revisited playlist showcasing deep cuts and fan-favorite B-sides, while TikTok creators synced clips of his announcement with clips of classic honky-tonk dance moves, sparking a viral Last Rodeo Shuffle challenge. Even talk show hosts, long accustomed to inviting artists for rehearsed interviews, begged him to appear live and expand on his cryptic hints about a refined purpose. Within hours, ticket brokers reported a 40% surge in inquiries for venues on his upcoming tour, despite no formal itinerary being announced. Insiders whispered that previously unsold dates in smaller markets, Bozeman, Montana, Jackson, Mississippi, Boise, Idaho, were suddenly in high demand as fans clamored for more intimate, up-close experiences. Amid the buzz, industry veterans reminded everyone that Yoakam had always thrived on defying expectation. He rose in the mid-'80s, eschewing Nashville's polished sound in favor of tough Telecaster riffs and rhythm structures lifted from Bakersfield pioneers like Buck Owens. When guitars, Cadillacs, etc., hit the country charts in 1986, it felt like a rebellion against formulaic balladry, an infusion of punk energy wrapped in cowboy boots. Yet Dwight refused to be boxed in. He flirted with rockabilly tempos, adopted curly-wired Fender amps from British rockers, and let hidden threads of mariachi instrumentation sneak into select tracks. That fearlessness carried him into acting roles that exposed him to broader audiences, proving that his creativity extended beyond six-string storytelling. Even his occasional lapses, skipping award shows, ignoring fan mail for weeks, only reinforced the image of a maverick ungovernable by industry demands. So when rumors swirled about retirement, it was less a shock than a prompt to revisit just how unpredictable he had always been. What the announcement didn't reveal, but what close collaborators hint at, is the deeper impetus behind his decision to slow the road grind. Decades of chicken picking had exacted a toll on his hands and wrists. Tendinitis and early stages of arthritis made marathon guitar sets a hidden agony. Recording sessions in recent years moved from high-energy jam rooms to quieter, late-night acoustic takes, out of necessity and artistic choice. He's been experimenting with minimal arrangements. His voice, a single acoustic guitar, maybe a washboard, or a subtle pedal steel in the background, seeking purity over spectacle. And beyond music, he's been privately composing scores for 2 upcoming indie films, exploring how familiar chord progressions can underscore on-screen drama without overpowering it. These behind-the-scenes projects were whispers on Nashville backlots, Dwight co-writing with Oscar-nominated composers, sketching cues on hotel room stationery, refusing to let any publicist so much as hint at his involvement. Now, as fans and critics await concrete plans, the speculation has crystallized into 3 likely avenues. First, an intimate One Last Rodeo acoustic circuit, where venues cap at 500 seats to preserve that raw, up-close feel. Second, a limited vinyl release titled Echoes from the Cabin, featuring unreleased demos and spoken-word interludes about each song's genesis. Insiders say the cover art will be a Polaroid shot of him leaning against an old Fender amp in his father's Kentucky barn. And third, a mentorship program launching this fall in partnership with the Country Music Hall of Fame, where he'll host songwriting workshops for emerging artists, emphasizing the importance of lyrical grit paired with authentic musical identity. These initiatives would allow him to recast his legacy not as a fading legend, but as an active shaper of country music's future. In the swirl of rumors finally put to rest, one fact stands out. Dwight Yoakam still writes his own rules. He confirmed that he isn't retiring from creativity, merely recalibrating the vehicle, trading large arenas for hand-picked halls, swapping multi-camera film crews for intimate cabin lamps, and shifting from headline dates to nurturing the next generation. That transformation, announced in a 4-line video shot on a stormy Tennessee night, felt less like a curtain call and more like the overture to a new movement. For fans who followed his sinewy bends from Kentucky backroads to Hollywood finales, The thrill now lies in discovering what comes next. The hushed excitement that surrounded Dwight Yoakam's announcement didn't fade with morning light. It crescendoed. Across living rooms and bars from Boise to Birmingham, diehard fans rewound and replayed that simple video, dissecting every pause, every guitar strum, and every weathered wrinkle in his smile. Social media lit up with hashtag rodeo continues, tagging old concert buddies and new followers alike to share their first Yoakam memory, a dusty honky-tonk discovery of interlopens dueling guitars, a late-night cassette swap of guitars, Cadillacs, or the thrill of spotting him on a gritty independent film set. Collectively, these memories formed a quilt of communal nostalgia, each patch stitched by a different generation but bound by the same rough-hewn authenticity that Dwight embodied. In Nashville bars, jukeboxes began looping his classics alongside that announcement clip. One night, Music City legend Marty Stewart hopped on stage mid-set at the Station Inn and slipped in the first 4 notes of Yoakam's intro riff, letting the crowd finish the message. "This one's for the man who never quit doing it his way," Stewart toasted, as fans hollered. At a small listening party in Austin, breakout Americana star Sierra Farrell confided that she'd just booked studio time to cover a stripped-down version of Sure Do Miss You in tribute. For Farrell and peers like her, Dwight's recalibration wasn't just news. It was a signal that true artistry transcends youth, that reinvention is the hallmark of a career worth emulating. Music journalists, ever hungry for texture, traced the threads tying Yoakam's revelation to his early days in the LA club scene. They noted how his first bandmates recalled a lanky kid who slept on studio floors, schlepping homemade beef jerky to survive long rehearsals. That DIY spirit reemerged in his video. No slick production, no glitzy entourage, just him, an amp, and a lamp casting more shadow than light. One critic called it the most rock-and-roll retirement announcement ever made. Others pointed out the uncanny parallel to Merle Haggard's late-career acoustic retreats or Johnny Cash's American recordings, where stripping back to bare would revitalize legends. In embracing minimalism, Dwight joined a lineage of icons who proved that sometimes less is more. Meanwhile, the rumor mill pivoted from speculation to confirmation. His manager quietly secured 4 shows at intimate listening rooms, 2 in Nashville's Fifth and Taylor, 2 at the Ryman's Lunette Circle, announcing them via an unbranded, midnight email drop to fan club members. Within seconds, all seats disappeared. Ticket resale prices tripled, but many fans refused to scalp. They wanted to stand in the same spotlight where Dwight would deliver those new cabin recordings, unvarnished and raw. The scarcity amplified the mystique. These weren't farewell concerts, but secret openings to a chapter he had promised would be different. In interviews that followed, still rare, still succinct, he expanded on refining purpose. His voice, now softened by time, carried a warmth that contrasted with his earlier swagger. He spoke of wanting to write songs that age like fine whiskey, rather than chase radio waves. "I'm choosing quality over quantity," he said. "I want every note to mean something in 10 years." That pledge resonated with a cultural moment fixated on slow living and intentional artistry. As streaming algorithms churn out endless playlists, Dwight's choice felt almost radical: to step off the conveyor belt and curate a legacy. Film collaborators began sharing their excitement too. An indie director, whose thriller will feature Yoakam's first original film score, revealed that the melodies weave classic country licks with unsettling cinematic textures, a dark lullaby of sort, he teased. Holed up in a cabin outside Nashville, Dwight reportedly recorded late-night sessions, borrowing old barn doors for soundproofing and using vintage ribbon microphones to capture subtle finger squeaks on guitar strings. If true, those recordings will offer fans an intimate rewind into the creative process, as close as they'll ever get to sitting beside him at the mixing desk. As expectations swelled, so did reflection. In fan forums, listeners debated what slowing down really meant. Some feared corporate obligations, like casinos or cruise ship residencies, might tie him down. Others hoped for more surprises, like a surprise bluegrass EP or spiritual hymns to match the rumored gospel recordings. But beneath the chatter was a common theme: gratitude. At 68, few artists command this level of anticipation for a pivot rather than a retirement. Yoakam's announcement had reframed rumors of exit into promises of evolution. And evolution, in Dwight Yoakam's world, has always been the only constant. From cornfield pickup gigs to Hollywood sets, from chart-topping albums to whispered collaborations, his journey underscores a truth both simple and profound. Artistry is not a static peak, but a series of unfolding plateaus, each richer for its predecessor. On the eve of his restrained tour and low-key releases, one thing shines brighter than any stage spotlight: the enduring connection between artist and audience, forged by 50 years of grit, innovation, and the courage to confound expectations once again. At the first intimate acoustic show in the dimly lit listening room, Dwight settled into his stool beneath a single chandelier of Edison bulbs. No band, no backup singers, just him, a 1964 Telecaster, and a mic. The audience of 300 held their breath as he launched into Honky Tonk Man, his voice deeper, seasoned by the years. Each guitar phrase rang clear like a confession, each inflection carrying both swagger and vulnerability. When he paused between verses, you could hear the creak of a chair in the back, the collective intake of breath carried through every speaker. He looked out at familiar faces, a pair of lifelong fans whose wedding cake he'd designed decades ago, a young singer who'd posted covers of his songs on YouTube, an actor who once co-starred with him in a gritty independent film. He nodded at them as if sharing an inside joke, then, with a sly grin, said, "We're just getting started." By the third song, Guitars, Cadillacs, the room had transformed into a pulsing tribute to his storied career. Yet he subverted expectations. Halfway through the chorus, he slid into a new verse of an unreleased cabin recording. Lyrics that spoke of aging highways, half-empty roadhouses, the ache of passing time balanced by the promise of a fresh dawn. The audience leaned forward, whispering among themselves. When he finished, there was a silence so profound it felt sacred. Then thunderous applause, stamping boots, and raised glasses. It wasn't just nostalgia. It felt like witnessing an artist forging a new path while honoring every rung he'd climbed. After the show, fans spilled into narrow corridors lined with black and white photos of his early days. Cuffed jeans, buzzing neon club signs, sweaty rehearsals. He moved among them like old friends, shaking hands, wrapping arms around tears. One man wept as he described how Home for Sale had comforted him after his father died. Another offered a hand-rolled Kentucky cigar, a flickering tobacco leaf testament to regional pride. Dwight accepted both with a quiet solemnity, joking, "Stories like yours owe me half the credit for these songs." In a small side room, he recorded spontaneous video messages, thanking each supporter for keeping him honest. Those unplanned exchanges became the show's secret encore, moments of raw authenticity that spread online almost instantly. In Boise and Jackson, the pattern repeated: bare stage, candlelit ambience, the crackle of vinyl preluding each set. Local guest artists joined him for duets, a bluegrass fiddler on "It'll Work Out Fine," a gospel choir whispering harmony on "I Sang Dixie" so delicately the voices seemed to float in candle smoke. Between songs, he spoke of the mentorship program launching this fall with the Country Music Hall of Fame, inviting fans to nominate songwriters for tuition, studio time, and one-on-one coaching. As he described watching a Subway performer belt out his heart to an empty car, then discovering thousands of viral views, he choked up. "Talent's everywhere," he said. "We just need to give it a stage." Backstage glimpses turned up on social media. A boomerang of Dwight and Sierra Farrell trading licks. A candid shot of him sipping sweet tea in a tack room, polishing his signature boots. A boisterous crew selfie tagged #LastRodeoBond. Each post fueled the narrative of a legend reborn, one who refused to be defined by age or rumor. In a world that equates youth with relevance, his decision to step down from large arenas and embrace vulnerability felt revolutionary. A statement that maturity carries its own power, that authenticity deepens with time. On each new stop, he raised a lone spotlight to reveal personal artifacts: his first mail-order guitar catalog, a tattered family photo taken on a turkey farm, a Polaroid from the Hollywood set of Sling Blade. As he narrated the stories behind these relics, listeners were drawn into his journey, understanding how every twist, from chart topper to wolf in silver lining rolls, shaped his creative soul. He'd conclude with a brand new song he wrote for his grandchildren, a lullaby layered with bittersweet harmonies that spoke of legacy and love passed through generations. At the final show, he raised his guitar overhead, eyes glistening with unshed tears, and offered a toast. Here's to the music we've made, the miles we've walked together, and the miles yet to come. Those words echoed in the hush that followed, sealing a chapter that promised no goodbye, but a heartfelt invitation to keep riding the next horizon. In the gentle acoustics of small halls and the whispered exclamations of devoted fans, the curtain had risen on a new act, one in which Dwight Yoakam, at 68, stood unbowed, guiding us back to the raw, unfiltered heart of music itself. In the weeks following the intimate tour, Dwight leveraged momentum to expand his creative influence beyond performance alone. He announced an official mentorship initiative in partnership with the Country Music Hall of Fame that invited aspiring songwriters to submit demos for selection. The chosen artists would receive scholarships for songwriting workshops, access to his personal Nashville studio for recording sessions, and one-on-one feedback on lyrics and arrangements directly from Dwight. This program reflected his belief that legacy isn't measured by plaques and awards, but by the stories you help others tell. He emphasized that supporting fresh voices had always aligned with his own maverick path. He rose by blending tradition with rebellion, and he hoped rising talents would learn from both his triumphs and his stumbles. Next, he scheduled monthly live streams where he would review submissions live, offering candid insights and encouraging participants to embrace vulnerability as a form of creative strength. Fans tuned in to watch him dissect raw demos, rewrite chorus structures in real time, and exhort amateurs to trust their instinctive phrasing. Each session unfolded like a masterclass in authenticity, drawing tens of thousands of viewers who appreciated his direct, no-nonsense approach. Meanwhile, he continued to explore innovative digital platforms. He collaborated with a leading technology company to design an interactive app that allowed users to mix virtual backing tracks with acoustic guitar stems from his unreleased cabin recordings. Users could adjust tempo, add pedal steel flourishes, and even record vocal harmonies alongside Dwight's own guide vocals. The app featured short video lessons in which he demonstrated thumb-picking patterns, chord voicings, and lyrical phrasing techniques. Subscribers could unlock exclusive content, such as early previews of his forthcoming film scores, and receive monthly challenges inviting them to interpret one of his classic riffs in a new style. These digital endeavors reconnected a younger, tech-savvy audience with Yoakam's craftsmanship, proving that tradition and innovation could coexist seamlessly. He didn't neglect traditional media either. This summer, he signed an exclusive deal with a major publisher to write a serialized memoir for a quarterly magazine. Each installment will chronicle a distinct era of his life: childhood barn rehearsals, the breakthrough of the Bakersfield sound revival, Hollywood shoots, and late-night whiskey-fueled jam sessions. Accompanying each essay, he will select a song from his catalog and share annotated notes on its genesis. What inspired the lyrics, which chord progression felt like a lightning strike, and the anecdotes that never made it into liner notes. By interweaving narrative prose with musical insight, Dwight aims to give fans a deeper understanding of the creative alchemy behind his work. The serialized format also builds anticipation, creating conversation around each new release. Simultaneously, Dwight continued his film scoring journey. Reports from independent productions cite his compositions as transformative undercurrents, subtle chord shifts that heighten tension, plaintive guitar motifs that underscore a character's turning point, and minimalist arrangements that leave space for dialogue. One film director described how Yoakam's score for a rural drama elevated the final scene. A single guitar chord struck on a stark D minor progression held the weight of the entire narrative. By blending his country roots with cinematic storytelling, he extends his spotlight onto new audiences who might never have crossed paths with live music venues. Screenings now feature post-film discussions in which fans compare his scoring techniques with those of classical composers, bridging generational gaps and cementing his status as a multidisciplinary artist. Finally, he embraced philanthropic avenues to give back. Partnering with local charities, he curated benefit concerts where ticket sales supported music education in underfunded schools. In each city, he invited program alumni to perform one of their original songs opening for him, spotlighting the very talents he aimed to nurture through his mentorship program. These events fused his dual passions for performance and empowerment, offering audiences not just a nostalgia fest, but an opportunity to engage in real-world impact. As he strummed the opening chords and saw young musicians on stage, Dwight often paused mid-song to gesture toward the emerging artists, saying, "This is the future of our music, and it's brighter than any spotlight." In these moments, fans witnessed the full spectrum of his influence: legend, teacher, and advocate united in melody. And so a new era of Dwight Yoakam's artistry dawns today. In every whispered conjecture and each avid fan theory, Dwight Yoakam's announcement has rewritten the script on how legendary artists navigate the crossroads of age, ambition, and authenticity. Rather than yield to rumors of retirement or hidden illness, he seized the narrative in his own hands, crafting a moment that felt less like an ending and more like a deliberate turning point. By offering a four-sentence guitar-backed video, he refused the usual treadmill of press releases and celebrity spokespeople. Instead, he chose directness and intimacy, signaling that the coming years would be guided by intention rather than obligation. In doing so, Dwight reminded us all that legacy isn't a static monument to bygone triumphs, but a living, breathing pursuit of purpose that evolves with each sunrise. Fans, critics, and fellow musicians have responded with a collective recalibration of what it means to be a creative veteran in the digital age. Social feeds overflow with testimonials. A steel guitar player in Montana who credits Yoakam's minimalism for rekindling his passion, a Nashville songwriter inspired to strip back overproduced arrangements in favor of raw storytelling. Even younger artists who once saw him as a paragon of outlaw swagger now describe him as a guiding elder statesman. He's no longer just the man who fused Bakersfield grit with Hollywood edge. He's become a symbol of how to stride into later decades with curiosity, vulnerability, and the courage to try new forms of expression. In this context, every upcoming event and release takes on the feel of a community gathering rather than a scripted media tour. Looking ahead, Dwight's roadmap sparkles with projects that balance tradition and innovation. There's the intimate acoustic Cabin Sessions album, rumored to feature stripped-down renditions of his classics alongside never-before-heard cabin demos, each track introduced by spoken reflections. He's set to broaden his mentorship program with workshops that pair emerging songwriters with seasoned pros, reinforcing the idea that wisdom multiplies when passed forward. Meanwhile, his interactive app will let fans remix stems from his unreleased recordings, weaving their own harmonies into his original tracks. A serialized memoir is in the works, promising quarterly deep dives into pivotal moments, early barn rehearsals, LA club shows, film score breakthroughs, and the lessons learned backstage, on honeysuckle-lined highways, and beneath neon strip mall lights. By diversifying across physical albums, digital platforms, and live engagements, he's building a multifaceted tapestry that resists easy categorization. This approach stands in stark contrast to industry norms, where many veterans opt for one grand farewell tour or a single greatest hits compilation. Dwight chooses multiple entry points for fans old and new. He recognizes that in a landscape driven by algorithms and shrinking attention spans, storytelling must expand across formats and channels. His serialized memoir creates anticipation over months, while the app fosters interactive creativity. Intimate live shows rebuild the direct emotional bridge between performer and audience. Each medium reinforces the others, ensuring that his next chapter isn't lost in a torrent of celebrity noise, but sustained by genuine engagement. Critics note that this model could redefine career arcs for countless artists. Rather than bowing out with a single farewell statement, the idea of renewal through diversification becomes a template for enduring relevance. By interweaving mentorship, digital interactivity, and carefully curated live experiences, Dwight Yoakam has crafted a blueprint that transforms personal evolution into communal opportunity. It's a far cry from the retirement announcements that echo in empty arenas. Instead, it feels like an open invitation to join him at every step. Through this lens, rumors of retirement feel almost quaint, replaced by a vision of ongoing creation and collaboration. In the end, The most enduring lesson lies in the power of narrative ownership. Dwight took months of speculation, half-truths, wild guesses, embellished headlines, and distilled them into an unadorned declaration of intent. He turned anxiety into excitement, confusion into curiosity. By saying less and meaning more, he elevated expectation into genuine anticipation. His four-line video did more than confirm rumors. It demonstrated how a single authentic gesture can galvanize a global community, forging new energy from the embers of old assumptions. At 68, Dwight Yoakam finally confirms the rumors. One truth echoes louder than any guitar riff. Reinvention isn't reserved for youth or bound by convention. Whether you're an aspiring musician, a seasoned creator, or simply someone navigating life's second acts, Dwight's journey underscores the transformative power of taking control of your story. From smoky club stages to intimate cabin recordings, from mentorship workshops to digital remix platforms, his path reminds us that every phase holds untapped potential. So heed the invitation, listen to the next chord change, read the upcoming memoir installment, attend a small venue performance, or remix that raw guitar stem. The ride is far from over. It's just beginning anew.